Let's look at the spread. Martha, smile for the camera. A wonderful spread as usual.
Well, thank you everyone for coming to this reading tonight, especially in this heat. Thank you, Scott, for Tsunami, this awesome space. From Martha, let me see who else brought food. Martha and Jerry, Bonnita, Quinton, everyone else who brought food. Did anybody else that I mentioned bring food? Anyway, thank you for bringing food. I want to announce that the third Saturday reading series in August, which is August 17th from 5 to 7 here at Tsunami, is going to feature 2 poets and a fiction writer. It's Ashland poet Bruce Barton. He's really a great guy. And he will be reading from his new book of poetry. Oh no, okay, I didn't read this. The book of something, do you know how to say this, Stephen?
The book of Baruchio.
Baruchio. The book of Baruchio. Just to edit that out, okay? A book that dances and wrestles with faith. And then fiction writer Jennifer Chambers, co-editor of Groundwaters magazine. She's going to be reading from her new novel, Brambleberry Farm, the first book in the Brambleberry Farm series that combines sustainable agriculture and food-to-table movement prevalent in the Northwest. And, of course, Eugene poet C. Stephen Blue. He's our videographer back there. Pretty wave to him. He will be reading from his 2 new books, SOS, Songs of Sobriety, which I can guarantee is a fabulous book, A Personal Journey of Recovery, and also it's a book about the first 10 years of his recovery process. And he's also going to read from Black Tides, a book of young adult romantic erotic poetry. So it's going to be quite the reading next month. I hope you all will make it. Anybody else have readings, things they need to announce? Okay, we're going to read from this anthology I published, Turn, and we're going to read alphabetically by first name, and all the authors know what they're reading. And if you forgot, I have a list up here with your name, the page number of the poem, and all that up here. After Laura, we will take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back and finish up with the poets. And so I'm going to turn this over to Amy MacLennan, who's going to begin with the reading.
This is really a delight to read a poem that is kind of paired with the entire anthology. It's just a very nice honor, and I'm happy to read it. The first poem is Turn. The air is turning today, even with scorching weeks, a month of summer ahead. A skeletal tree wind slings early winter on an August afternoon. Across browned grasses, it blows surrender. It blows forget. I button my coat, wipe dust from my stinging eyes. A season thrown full across my reluctant back. And this is another poem in the anthology, and it's called November Late. The rains arrive. They'll stick until next May. Time now for cold bathroom floors, damp entryways, the dry hack. Ends of day sliced down, and trees just seem to shake. And I wait. Before she died, I gave her flowers, a wash of roses, or sweets, candies, toffee, fudge, things of the moment, nothing that lasted. Her language fading away, she called when she got a bouquet. 2 yellows, 1 white, 3 reds, a pink, a yellow, a red. Lost count. Forgot. Started over. And the wet leaves stick to my porch, my steps. Slick, they soak a shape shadow to the cement. Each day shifts the pattern, and the rain washes. Her favorite were the raspberry creams, dark chocolate and smooth pink center. She'd bite, chew slowly, finish one off, carefully crumple the wrapper, look into the box for another. Daylight will come back with new leaf folds on the tips of branches. I watch for them, even now, even as the dying ones remain. And my wild card poem. This has an epigraph. The name of the poem is Cancellation, and the epigraph reads, engineering term, having indentations similar to battlements. Like that. And with thanks to my friend Paul, who kind of set up the idea in my head. Cancellation. It's on the workbench, grimed up, slightly rusted, a chunk of carved out metal the size of a child's hand. Donut-shaped and jagged. I pick it up, trace the Greek key lines, see the threads inside, a nut for a very big bolt. I ask my friend what it is. A castellated nut, he says, used on very old cars, something to keep a vibrating screw in place. But you can't underturn it. You have to twist and lock, get that turn just right. I've come over to have coffee. I'm a bit tight myself after a long call with my ex-lover, to talk on how we'll sort things out, who gets what, the cell phone minutes, cheese knives, big screen TV. We were careful, not too harsh, not too delicate. Of course, now I think of us as bolt to nut, the care we'd taken to grease our pairing. We did not mean to strip our threads, but it was a jarring ride, a hard shaking. Our metals broke, tore our castle apart.
I'm Ayelet Amittay. Thank you very much, Laura, for having me come read today. And I'm going to start with a poem by Susan Kenyon, who's on page 28 of the anthology, if you want to follow along. And I understand that Susan is a writer and a painter, and has been writing poems for a very long time. This poem is called Living with History. You tell me this is the greatest country. The flame of shame rises in me, as it did in 1936, at the inn where we stayed in Nagasaki, the first Japanese city to host Europeans 300 years earlier. There I was told by my little sister that she and her gang had stashed the greatest pile of pine cones to attack our host's children. We apologized. Later, another American passing by shot their pet king snake as we children watched it, drinking milk. 9 years later, we dropped the greatest bomb. And I'm going to be reading a poem about winter, which feels like it's never existed today. It's okay. The poem is called Landscape with Animated Deer. Now, this is a sonnet, so I don't know, some people like to know that ahead of time. Now winter, thorny boughs, the cold to stand against, everything visible as breath near breaking. And this herd, their bodies spooled wire and lights, the rigid bow-lift bow of their heads just hammers home how useless grazing is to them in their empty frames. Even so, their faces seem familiar and kind, and I see myself in the tight wire armature, studded with lights that blink and flicker into wind. They shed their pale glow over the lawn, casting themselves against the house and shrubs with a selfless animal grace, as when in a pre-dawn blur years gone, I walked the spine of a hill in the thaw of another winter's death, and saw a deer step to the edge of the wood. I was lit by that flare, the electric blood. And my wild card poem is a poem about Dr. Phil. You all know Dr. Phil. And the poem is called My Authentic Self Gets Real. You come from a Texan country. Steer your U-shaped crowd through one mud-dragged disgrace after another. TV guide, you point the finger of your face at failure, saying be gone, and it is gone. Commercial break encore. Grab hold of my bootstraps then, under the light of your bald dome, sweating fire and brimstone, get thee well again. I want to be up there on stage, running my fingers through the Play-Doh philosophy of yes you can. In the puffed up embrace of your therapist's chair, I'll clap for you as the tears stream like beaded curtains and the credits roll, my segment over.
Hi, I'm Bonnita Stahlberg. I thought we were supposed to do 6 words.
You are.
So,
Wait, let's hear. Amy, do you have your 6-word bio?
No.
Okay, I'm behind the podium so you can film.
Sorry. I didn't want a mic, so. Can I stand here? Okay. So you're going to get their bios later, I think?
You didn't have one?
I'm a handful, but never boring.
There you go. Okay. Ayelet?
No, I pass.
Thank you, Bonnita.
Well, I don't know. I just follow directions.
Yes.
Okay. So, it's probably being a teacher. So, Bonnita Stahlberg, explorer, Oregon native, hiker, chinchilla lover. Okay. So the poem that's in this collection that I'm so glad Laura gave us a chance to read from is is Mount June in May. Mount June is one of the tallest peaks in the area. I'm just curious how many people have been up Mount June. It's a short hike. Quite a few of you have, haven't you? Yeah. It's great, and you can go up any time, but the title of my poem is Mount June in May. Savor the Oregon wild. Arrive early at the base of Mount June. Delight in the first spring view. Sword ferns with shiny leather blades nudge white trillium flywheels and yellow-green oxalis leaves. Shamrocks, tart to taste. My hiker's heart races. The crest trail climbs, switchbacks to the ridge. Sluggish from dormant winter, I wonder about bears. How fast do they move hours after hibernation? Will they pause to munch the pink currants, untouched by deer? The roadies aren't quite ready, neither am I. No worry to the caterpillar, savoring minutes, seconds, crossing my boot on summit shale above a forest of Douglas fir. A marker from the 30s lookout site recalls sky dwellers who inhaled fog, waited for those first clearings, the Willamette River Valley, Mount Hood to Diamond Peak, Bachelor Butte, the sisters in the east. Another hike, and another place, this one in the desert. The second poem I'll read by myself, and then I'll read a third one. This one is from Joshua Tree National Park. How many hike there? Okay. This one is about a cactus. It's called Jumpy Cholla. Squinting for a close-up of a pencil cactus, I butt against the bigelow, a teddy bear, not the cuddly kind. An arm from the prickly plant hooks my thigh with long barbed spines. The desert flower book claims a comb removes clinging cacti parts. Here, careful hands jerk the clutching paw free from a patch of needled skin. One by one, my husband plucks each pin with tweezers, like my father did, pulling porcupine quills from the sheepdog's nose before dabbing it with turpentine. I wince at a swab of alcohol and iodine with nothing to stave off the stigma of identifying oneself from the guidebook as the careless passerby. I was asked to read a very beautiful poem by Caitlin Walsh, California co-ed reader, second-hand shop scavenger. It's called Waiting in the Dark. On hot, close nights, we sit on the roofs of cars under the golden cat's eye moon, lie on our backs and watch the stars escaping, coming loose from the net and plummeting to earth. We trace their winding filaments with our fingertips, whispering their beautiful names to the darkness. Cygnus, Orion, Draco, Gemini. We sit on winding streets in the late September heat, winding streets beyond the outskirts of town where there are no houses, only flatlands full of dusty weeds, turning mellow gold as summer begins to die, shining in the reflected glow of headlights. Others pass us, driving too fast on the long road to their own dark and deserted roads on the edges of the city. Our paired shadows grow huge and dark in their headlights, then slowly collapse, fade to nothingness again. We sit on the roofs of cars, making plans we will not follow, making promises that fade away with the shadows when the dawn comes. We watch for stars to fall, one moment of light and heat and beauty, followed by a long time spent cold and waiting in the dark.
Thank you for leaving that. But as hot as it is here, it's only hotter in New Jersey, which is where I come from originally. I don't have my 6-word bio, but I have a 6-word excuse. Cathy's chickens capture her current concentration. Sorry, I've had 3 cockfights in the last week. There's gotta be a poem in that somewhere. All right, so I'm starting with a poem, thank you Laura, that is partly in Romanian. I had to look it up, but I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. It's a lovely poem, Soare cu Dinti, by Marissa Peterson. Fresh, heavy snowfall blankets and muffles the Carpathian countryside, creates a desert of white dunes. The laser-intense sun fuses the bright ceiling of January to the mountain background. The horizon blurs and dissolves in a sea of light. The golden flare also chisels shadows into drifts and ravines, defines ancient Dacian terraces on steep cultivated slopes. Suari Kundinti, the sun bites. -12 centigrade, freeze frames everything in the snowscape. Everything except 3 sheepdogs who leap and circle around their stock-still flock, clumped together for warmth. From a nearby tree, a crow scolds the bouncy guard dogs, but his caw ices up in mid-air. The dogs will hear the crow's complaint when the thaw comes. A nice cold poem for this kind of heat. So this one is one of mine, the spring poem on page 22. It's called June Morning Greening, and it's after a Wallace Stevens poem in which he kind of repeats the same motif and with variations. I think he does a better job, but still. 1. As morning breathes its musk of basil, fir, morel, lilac, sage, and birdsong migrates tree to tree, and greens mutate past counting, deep jade, celadon, celery, moss. How not to lose the thread of tasks, winter hoarded, primed to surge the summer toward productive climax. Not just pollen dulls the will and sets intent a tipsy. Not just sun bleaches thoughts to bone-white paws, to limpid bud that soaks up dawn. 2. As morning spritzes perfume, thyme, rosemary, clover, new-turned earth, and birdsong's improv fills the trees, and greens compete in 4 divisions, freshness, clarity, uniqueness, verve. How not to fall behind in tasks, delineated, urgent, framing summer as industrious oeuvre. Not just river hum lulls the muscles and jellies the resolve. Not just flicker staccato hammers weight to rising plans and sinks limbs in morning's skiff. 3. As morning swirls its languorous potion of cut grass, compost, apple, and birdsong's arpeggios fledge their nest, and greens transmute sun to lifeblood, drinking light in emerald hunger. How not to lust for such a mouth, such tasks, a verdant alchemy, to pollinate the juicy summer to a ripened fruit. Not just breeze sets hearts to flutter and tug at ties. Not just olive shadow cuts logic into leafy shreds and glazes dream on stoneware obligation. 4. As morning plays its ghost blue theme in lavender and young roses, and birdsong punctuates the cedar's phrase, and greens rewrite the land's long winter elegy to lyrical delight. How not to count the outlined tasks as trite, superfluous, jamming summer into ill-fitting lines. Not just leaf fall slides the moment into free form. Not just pearled hill clouds nudges ambition cockeyed, wins my consent to be revised. That one's so long I'm not even sure how I actually wrote it. Okay, so this one is kind of a summer poem. This is my wild card poem. It's called Estate Sale. Midway down a cul-de-sac, one house thrown open, contents spilled onto tables in the drive, garage, front yard. A woman has passed. Relatives or pros present her goods to strangers. I move among the books, lotions, pottery. Orange stickies price it all to the last bar of soap. A delicate dissection, one life separated onto card tables, the Agatha Christie's, Bibles, the craft books. You can read her in the titles: Overcome Childhood Trauma, Anxiety Disorders, Christian Women in History, Green Maturity, Gifts of Grace. I might have liked this woman. Acrylic paints and brushes and cardboard above a stack of paints. Behind some seascapes, a portrait. In rusts, caramels, and beige, a woman stares, blue-eyed, white-haired at me. Here I am. Was. In the bedroom, everything once closeted, shut in. Nighties, bras, socks, the BP cuff, insulin prick, the braces and pads that eased the downslope. But also lace and quilting, red brocade from China, a paper fan. Many angels, Porcelain, wicker, plaster, tin, a multitude that must have scattered through the house to be greeted every day, now huddled, priced on a dresser top. Accumulations release, and so we end. I bring my purchases home, tuck them in proper places, see all this, the dishes, yarn, the poetry, on future card tables as strangers browse. Thank you.
That would be true. So Kit, you're Catherine decided she didn't want to read today. But she did bake cookies. She did bake the cookies.
So, I was working on my bio, and then I noticed it said 6 words yesterday. So this is it. This is what I came up with. Alabama, Cuba, Manhattan, Malibu, whoa, tsunami. Does anybody know Gaelic?
Probably get it a little.
So don't listen to me. Everybody else is going to be impressed with me. This is by Liz Nakasawa, Fate of Rain. It's Imok, February 2nd, and we're at the refuge. You point out differences between ducks, coots and mallards, and when I ask you if you believe in prayer, you don't say a thing. Like the Gaelics, I silently welcome a bit more of light's return, but the pagans did more on the cross-quarter day of smithcraft and healing. If it was foul weather, the Kalach hag gathered firewood and tried spotting serpents emerging from winter dens. If clear, she slept in to declare an early spring. You pull me back to cattails and nutria. We spy a golden eagle land and devour prey, a flash of red, an open belly, and the bird oblivious to time of year.
Check that mic, Kev.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Is this better?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, these are mine. This is called Sugar. It's the magic, the Aztecan Catholic sugar humor, those festive deaths on Dia de los Muertos. For me, the cookies, the big chew, the peanut butter and jelly sandwich as I lounge on that cemetery plot overlooking the Umpqua Valley. Year after year, gazing down at the llamas and the cows and the horses, I'm eating bites of Chips Ahoy and the little angels fluttering around like butterflies and the tiny skulls rolling all about. So my wild one, is that what it's called? I take the opportunity to promote what I call motel guerrilla art. And this is called I Love Motels. I'm not talking about that feeling as a kid on vacation, the whole family piled on the king bed at the Sands Motel in Daytona Beach, watching Have Gun Will Travel, eating Howard Johnson clam rolls, or with that man in Minot, North Dakota, on the road to a breakup, one last night together, feeling the nuclear power plant nearby. This is alone in a motel, anonymous, could be anywhere, a notes from underground thing, chintzy, ratty, shining. Lounge on the bed, eat Fritos, ding-dongs, drink beers, read stupid magazines, watch bad TV. Consider being someone else. Consider never going back home. Glower at the hideous art that talks pretty. That scene with the children playing on the path to the light-filled cottage, and its trellis of pink roses craves a naked old woman sitting by. And that other one of a pretty garden, always those roses, with the sleepy cat on the white wicker chair needs a beleaguered soldier. So I cut up the magazines, paste and fix irksome prettiness. Nothing roses and kitty cats about a lonesome motel room. I scoop up the little shampoo, conditioner, body lotion, wrapped soaps, clean towels, all for me. Take a shower, use the freebies, climb between the clean taut sheets, and still I feel underground, edgy, filled with anything goes.
Great to be here, even on this hot, hot day. I have no 6-word bio. I was thinking, could I get away with my 2 titles? Because it's, it's 6 words. Odd, isn't it, All Hallows Eve? You figure it out. My first one is on page 18. I sort of like for you to know that. And it's a summer poem. Odd, isn't it, to have emerged from that dark Eden, to rise and ebb, no matter how we cordon off and bargain. It's summer, with the heat high, gray sky, trees shaking leaves at every passing car. How far we have driven past our welcome. We say, never again, and then repeat. Coyote lolls in arbor's shade, and we are filled with anxiety and sad, seedless watermelon. This one on page 35. I've leapt to Halloween. No sugar skulls in this one. All Hallows Eve, or maybe they're on, I forget. All Hallows Eve. Sweet's tribes ring our bell, where ills they do not feel. A bloody wound, half peeled, black goo for absent tooth. Life entails too few performances. Shout and carry on. Too soon we're gone. Glug your flagons. Primessi seeds from Cinderellas. Our children walk forward with lanterns, heads whirled like sugar around a paper cone. Oh, crones, kiss us with wax lips and dollop our throats with sugar blood. Candy kiss in a paper bag, a pumpkin's sunken smile. Mold is black art too, and potions not all that set in motion spells that crackle upward in the night. And my wild card is, I sort of love it, is from Clackamas Literary Review. It finally came out. There were several calls with, if you will keep your poem in this magazine, we will send you 8 copies of it. Because it took them 3 years. This is the 2010 edition, which came out in April. Wronged, which is a good title, actually, to go with that. Wronged, no wrong again. The hail unzips the sky with sound between a moan and panic attack. My heart brat-a-tats as I scrawl notes. I'm not consoled nor lulled. Where I come from, we know that life's not fair and no one will take care of us. But we make thunder worse, serve curses piping hot. I hate these days that pry the moldings off the doors, tramp mud across the floors, and love them too. Spit threats like teeth. I whine my need, a hatchet chopping round his heart. And this Another screed as floor falls out the funhouse ride I'm spinning, clammy white. I crash like branches through the light. It's not all right. He lies beside me through the night. What are we for? What do I always want, but more?
All right, I remembered to thank Catherine for the cookies, which I had forgotten earlier, which are scrumptious. She actually baked them, chocolate chip cookies. So that's pretty amazing. My name is Laura LeHew, and my 6-word bio is, well, it's actually 7. As Quinton pointed out, I always thought I'd be an astronaut. And this is the poem I originally did the call for was I Love You Maybe More. That was the working title of the book. But once I got all the poems and I got Amy's poem in particular, I thought that was really the heart of the book. So this is what it could have been, though. If everyone was as dark as I am. I love you maybe more, with the epigraph. The lovers be lost, love shall not, and death shall have no dominion, by Dylan Thomas. In the month of dripping diamonds and deep dark chocolate, you sidle up, your hand on my shoulder, the tender squeeze sliding too close and closer, 2 winter weight shirts away. In the month of candy hearts, you smell like clover, promise berry and bramble. Press ever so softly against my ribs, the knife just beginning to drip. Very different than thank goodness, I'm guessing. I'm going to read then a poem by Cheryl Letcher, and it's on page 17, Ghosts Having No Maps. Come late at night in pollen-dusted coveralls while we were sleeping. Slap one another in jest and park right in front of the steamer trunks, moaning in harmony like soffit vents in April squalls, then drift away. Though we never actually see them, our impression is they could eat a man whole, hunkered around bonfires, flaming in the fields, feasting on ribs and fibula. They find it hard to relax in 2 different worlds. Some graver task ahead. And I'm going to end on the last poem in the book by Jose Araguz, who I'm very sorry to say moved away. He was a Eugene poet for a very, very short while. Snow in December. As one fell, and then another against the pain before him, he began to see in the flakes the drawn lines of eyelashes, the world now closing and closing its eyes. And now Lydia. I did say my bio. Okay, I'm going to repeat my bio. My bio is, I always thought I'd be an astronaut.
My daughter thought she'd be an astronaut. Well, I did think about the bio, and I decided my wild card title, and I'll wait till I get to it, I decided it's probably my one. But I'm going to read, first of all, the poem in turn, Overlay. Magenta, rivers of rich color, moral eyes. I cover over the day with paint thick as lava, too pink to be real. I will say, alive. Small streams of black drip down the canvas, make iridescent tributaries, the colors of a crow's wings. November sun glancing through the picture window. And then I had the honor to read a poem by Cathy McGuire. Its title is Letters from the Field. Walking downfield, was it March? Beneath a stilt work of yucca, bones relaxed in a semicircle, almost sweet, this little death jackrabbit. Out in the open, far from the nearest burrow, no sign of struggle or chase, no hawk's methodical ripping of seams, no skin or fur, only an alphabet of bones, curved in slight relief, C of the spine, elliptical O of skull and jaw, still attached, the eyes of leg and tail, message pointed, message poised in ease, crouched in cactus windbreak, every intention to wait out the storm. And then, my wild card. And my poems, I write poems that consistently, I'm seen as the queen of dark in my groups. But light has a way, little bits of light have a way of making their way into my poems. So, the title of this poem is Collage, Raphael and Goya Meet. The shiny white paper is so thin, it is ethereal. The natural drape wants to fold into wings, but underneath lies a darker canvas. Shadowy faces that bleed through, the somber eyes torn from last night's paper, no cushion of lips to soften black hole mouths. Hobgoblins in corners with their heads thrown back spew curses into a cold wind. Shiny white paper, so thin. Thank you.
Hello, it's so good to be here. Thanks, Laura, and so good to see you all. My bio I brought was kayaker, riding as the heron calls. So I thought I'd start out with the poem that I had in the book called July 4th. He can't let go of the image, rocket and artillery rounds lighting up the sky overhead, blasts reflecting off Thuban River, the incessant rattling of earth, and at dawn the hunks of shrapnel that shredded his tent walls, missing his body by inches. He figured he'd survive this long, and hell, wouldn't it be cruel to take him now, after 19 months in Nam, and just hours before his discharge, a plane taking him far away from Da Nang. He says it didn't take long to become a fatalist, to believe the only thing separating those who lived and those who died was luck, particularly during days on jungle patrol in 120-degree heat, sweat rolling down like hate. But God knows he still can't shake it. Each summer, for the past 32 years, he tells me that story as we sit on the grassy Willamette River bank, then silently wait for the first plume, the first blast, the lights brightening up the night sky. And I am very happy to read Ellerlane Rocky's Right at Harvest. That's on page 27. She's 13 and pure as the Montana air she breathes. He's a bronze and muscled 16, a kid on the road with his Oklahoma uncles come in August to harvest her family's wheat. Ask, any of y'all wash and iron shirts? She'll make her mother stay up an extra 2 hours to learn. She keeps the pile in her room overnight, has trouble sleeping, and when she does, dreams of riding on the slow rock of a black stallion's back. She won't know the word pheromone until she follows her first boyfriend to college. Here and now, she knows only what she wants, to deliver all their lunches to the combine crew. They take her to the county fair on Sunday, when even the wheat bursting from its beards has to learn to wait. That night on the Ferris wheel, the Oklahoma kid takes her hand in his, starts one of those brush fires that gets out of control real fast in August. She's ready for this, been practicing on her pillow since she was 10, and saw Rock Hudson kiss Doris Day. But then Oklahoma asks if she can collect his shirts in the morning before they move on to the next farm. Steam rising at midnight. And I thought I'd end with a little new poem that has a title in the first line. How can we peel memories off the surface, like heat on a stifling day, the air shimmering as the car crests the hill? My brother and I, our toes braced on the back of our parents' front seat as we rode 45 miles an hour tops in the old Buick. It was one of those sultry days en route to South Florida in August, before AC, before thong underwear, before sugar-free juices in little bottles replaced syrupy liquid in wax lips, before time trailed behind, teasing me like a thin ribbon. Thank you.
I'm Nancy Carol Moody, and thank you, Laura, for this fabulous anthology. It's, well, you know, it's one thing to, I've read these poems many times, and it's one thing to read them on the page, but then to hear the writers, the poets, the artists read them is quite another, and so it's a joy to sit here and hear these poems this afternoon. I have a kind of stock 6-word bio, which is first, one life, now this one, and I thought I should update it to first 12 lives, now this one. And I thought that would, things change, and I thought that would make me appear a little more interesting. The first poem I'm going to read, I have 2 in turn, and the first poem I'm going to read is titled Memphis, August 1968, and it goes to Memphis in that year after Martin Luther King was assassinated in April, and Bobby Kennedy following June, and this imagines a moment in Memphis where King was assassinated that following August. Memphis, August 1968. Probably it was the heat that drove us out of the house to sprawl across the picnic table where water dripped from lemonade glasses, beating the red checked oilcloth. Later, we flapped that cloth like a white sheet, the water shattering over our squealing half-nakedness to scatter in directions we could not see because we were forbidden to look at the sun. We believed in threatened blindness. The cameras' flashed bulbs, blown and melted in their blue, hot cubes, had shown us what it meant to see too much light. At dusk, we could not help but stare at the shrubs growing luminance, and then the rhinestones unpinned themselves to become the fireflies we crushed in our palms. And then we fast forward a bit from August to November. I'm not like you think I am. This late November light, liquid minerals sluicing through panes, puddles gridded impossibly to walls. This close to evening, angles and physics preventing the presumptive pools on floor. Even the cat understands the need to move on. He soaked up his piece earlier in the day when it still contained a useful warmth. Out in the field, beyond the window, a woman wandering the weeds in her dark, long coat. The dog she keeps for company leaps in arcs above tops of fading grass. The woman looks to her feet, walks her tighter and tighter circles. If you believe the passing light says something about the way a day can turn itself inside out, if you think a woman walking by herself in a field is loneliness, you are wrong. And then I love how the wild card poem has caught fire. And not to one-up anyone, but I actually do have a wild card poem because I brought two, and I thought I'll just pick what I want when the time comes. So my wild card poem is actually an obituary, and it's a little self-referential. It's titled Obituary, Moody Family Bath Mat. The Moody family bath mat returned to the earth on February 14, 2013, after a brief but unanticipated disintegration in the electric clothes dryer. The bath mat was 8 years old. The bath mat was manufactured of 100% acrylic fibers in July 2004, Jiangsu Province, China. After being sheathed in plastic and loaded into a container, the bath mat departed the country by ship, eventually arriving at the port of Seattle. The bath mat was ultimately relocated to a display of approximately 40 other patterns and designs in Kohl's department store in Springfield, Oregon. Soon thereafter, the bath mat was declared a perfect fit by the Moody family and was adopted into the household. The bath mat was assigned to the tile floor of the upstairs master bathroom, where its primary responsibilities were attracting cat hair, protecting the surface from shower drops, and preventing morning toes from becoming cold. The Moody family bath mat is survived by an LL Bean water hog entry mat, 2 color-coordinated braided kitchen rugs, an oriental-style hallway runner, and an outdoor patio carpet bearing a tropical motif. Interment was at Short Mountain Landfill following regularly scheduled Friday garbage service. No memorial is planned. In lieu of flowers, remembrances may be made to the Moody Family Bath Mat Replacement Fund, available at department stores near you.
I'm Sharon Munson. Laura, loved the book. My bio: Detroit, Alaska, Oregon. Poetry, life's gift. I have 2 poems in turn, and the first one came about after New Year's Eve dinner at Mozzie's 2 years ago. We were so late, there were hardly any people, and we got that fabulous table between the fireplace and the window, and the poem arrived that night. Winter Reflections. We select a table for 2 by the window, a stone's toss from the cafe's crackling open fire. The clear glass beside us sends back a dueling image. The blaze within intermingles with December's white winter camellias blooming beyond the pane. Dense bouquets of glassy leaves, fragile petals. Bowed by relentless rain on this cold, wet New Year's Eve, the flame, like a cunning serpent, sheds his skin and consumes. The second poem came after 9/11, just a casual remark to a friend on a farm in Missouri when I said, we might come to you and what she responded brought this poem to life. It wasn't that we weren't wanted. Off center of safe. Tragedies have anniversaries. 10 years later, we remembered September 11th. 2 planes crashing into the World Trade Center. Police and firemen rushing into the blaze. Ordinary citizens running fabric over their mouths, coated in dust, debris. 2. Soon we will walk through newly revamped airports, shoes in one hand, identification in the other. Queues of travelers heading to the advanced imaging technology scanner chambers. Assured, we can be confident. Only our generic outlines will be revealed. 3. We will all die. When or how is the question. Viewing the world through fear shapes our lives, drives us mad. 4. Central Missouri, corn, wheat, soybeans, pie auctions, tractor shows, 4th of July celebrations, autumn leaves, angle of moonlight, parents tuck in children, listen to prayers. A short distance away, Whitman Air Force Base and the 509th Bomb Wing Global Strike Command, home of the stealth bombers. Amy, I love how you said a wild poem. I never heard that before. I thought of it as my 3rd poem. And so I had planned to bring a new poem to share today. But when I found out my friend Kay Kelly was coming to the reading, I thought of how many times she said about a very old poem, "I've never heard you read it, why don't you read that one?" And so I dug it out this morning. Kay, this is for you. Home Invasion. She dropped in one evening. "I'll stay just a moment," said the woman I barely knew, sister-in-law of an old friend in the neighborhood, running errands, with time left over and nothing to do. I invited her in. Photographs poured from her stuffed black leather handbag. She speaks of trips, train travel, car rentals, Grandpa's party, relatives I don't know, dead and dying, detailed accounts, bank accounts, health problems, misgivings, poor advice from the new doctor in town. She speaks of her oldest child, spending habits, clothes bought, men dated, a handsome new somebody, a sadly ditched nobody, past angers, arguments, opinions, the job, the apartment, antique chairs, newly upholstered. Her favorite middle child, first wife, second wife, perfect grandchildren, alimony, lawn mowing, the alien neighbor from down the street. The aging baby, high achievements, second job, allergies, move to Boise, holiday gifts, live-in girlfriend, window curtains, opposed to pull-down shades. Her eyes, small, intent, fixated. Mouth opening and closing, oval, like a guppy contained, spewing words and spray, close up, magnified, body inching toward me. Hypnotized, I peel an orange, nibble segments slowly, move cracker crumbs back and forth, build tiny piles on the table as I study shoe designs, geometric patterns etched in leather, ferret out beige threads on dark carpet, chips in the molding along the floorboard, her monologue unending, my head splitting, eyes closing, propelled downward I slide. She stands abruptly, reaches, coat, gloves, bag, buttons, rearranges, fastens, comments on the rain, local politics, evening news, walks to the door, bids me goodbye, backpedals herself down the walk. Breathing softly, I exhale, sag against the wall. The house embraces, surrounds, hushed, calm, soothing. The grandfather clock ticks, familiar, intimate. Gas hisses from the fireplace. The furnace hums as I turn down the lights and in semi-darkness, listen.
Thank you, Laura, and everyone. I just think this is no wild card team here. This is the real deal. I love it. I love being part of this anthology and hearing all of you today. I have 3 poems in the book, so I think I'll just designate 2 of them, and then maybe the third is the wild card. Her wrists. I'll just sidebar here. I have a stepdaughter who spent a long time living on the street, and we didn't know where she was for a very long time. So this poem comes out of that a little bit. Her wrists are glass, Pyrex, tempered by tapping on church doors. Her mission, Brink's trucks toting immutable sparks of treasure fresh off the pyre. She tucks unmet needs into glassine envelopes. Lets one seed at a time spill from a torn corner. She bloats the flash of circumstance to bleed, blink, pop, breed. A Manhattan, all fists. She could be the New Year's baby, fired up, refracting too much noise and light when the Waterford ball drops. We found her, she's here. Waxing year. Magnolia buds fatten, camellias too, in January's false spring. An older daughter who doesn't know better misses 2 periods, and we hover or hide, unsure how to suppress the inconvenient news. A grandchild's already in flower, her red river poised at the tender gate. When an ice storm strikes in February, we rush with blankets to cover the innocent shrubs before they clench, and calla lily spikes before they glaze. By March, the women are secure, blood flowing for one, not yet for the other, and the calla slips easily out of its icy cloak. The magnolia opens its pursed lips. And it's a wild card. That's probably a good description. A little French in here. Gratte-ciel are skyscrapers, and what else? Feu d'artifice is fireworks. Défense de fumée, no smoking. They didn't see the sign. No sparks were left either. No sizzling down, no ember, jamais. They could see nothing explicit posted on the balconies of all those high-rise gratte-ciel. Their honeymoon year, the move to Paris, they both chain-smoked. She'd straddle chairs backwards, and he would lean seductively against door jambs, tapping ash into his palm. They swore they could hear comets falling. On Bastille Day, 12 summers later, She leaned over packing boxes and unlit gulwas hanging from her lips. She underscored her maiden name with a marker, separated out her share of the feu d'artifice. The air conditioner ticked off hours till sundown.
So this is off to a great start. 6-word bio, I had completely spaced it until Laura mentioned it. So I started off with obsessive disobedience disorder means medicating. And then I listened to poetry for about an hour and a half and I feel a little better. So my 6-word bio is best or worse, it's a story. The first poem I'm going to read mentions a guy I want to give you a little background on. His name is St. Hugh of Grenoble, and he was a cleric in the Dark Ages whose claim to fame was that he could do really good accounting work in Roman numerals. And he spent his life traveling around Europe, writing letters to Rome saying, let me go to the monastery and pray, and getting letters back that said, no, go to such and such diocese and clean up the mess. So he died and became a saint. And in the Catholic Days of Saints, he has a holy day. And if it happens to fall on a very secular holiday that was of great importance in my family, particularly with my youngest son and his little sister as they were growing up. Prayer for a holy day of obligation. St. Hugh of Grenoble, 1053 to eternity, intercede for this sinner and protect me from my daughter on this, the dark eve of your sacred holy feast day, April 1st. If it pleases God, shield me from that child's idea of jokes. Let all the traps be foiled, not sprung. Let my clocks be untouched in the black night's timeless sleep. May tight wound spring-loaded buzzard boxes marked rattlesnake eggs be unopened, and heavy cans marked mixed nuts never be, for they never are. Let no opening be sewn, not cuffs, not socks, sleeves, bed sheets, or purses. Keep my coffee safe. Bless us with cold and hot water lines still in appointed place, and keep rubber bands from the spray hose's handle in the sink. Let water stay in toilets and keep Vaseline from their seats, which I beseech you to protect from unbolting in the night. Anoint sugar and salt with correct labeling. Leave Jell-O powder in boxes unmoved to shower heads and shaving cups. Let no surprises be, alive or not, in my daily bread. And save my tobacco products from all her planned explosions. Such judgments are his alone. So ask God to let banana pudding in her shoes be unmoved to mine come the morning's light. Amen. Later that daughter ran off to Africa to be in the Peace Corps and find a young man. Her mother and I took off for Africa ourselves about a year later in January just to see her. We left Portland in the ice and we arrived in Maseru, Lesotho, in the blazing summer sun at 6,000 feet of elevation. The only Sesotho word that snuck into this is Natatuola, and it means literally beloved, and is frequently a first name in a country of an oral poetry tradition and massive AIDS. Hotel Beloved. Hotel Ntatuola, beloved, waits on Africa's spine for travelers from somewhere else to beyond, with a January summer river washing the feet of the mountain who spreads her wings in protected cover over beloved Ntatuola. Ntatuola, beloved daughter, gone now from the sight of corn and cattle, In Tatuoa, their beloved daughter gone. Where travelers rest and heal, the travelers you would expect to find in Kacha's Neck, Lesotho, where you did not expect to travel, so why would they? Lovers, foreign workers, and village girls with jobs in town. In Tatuoa, beloved daughters on their own now, lonely and proud, risen to working with banks' crisp paper, listening to cattle low outside. Red bricked with one rose bush, hotel in Tatuoa, beloved, named for a daughter who died, death you steeled yourself to accept before you came here, before you even learned she lived, even though you knew all sons and daughters die. But not your own beloved daughter, a volunteer, taller now, asleep in a room beyond, tan limbs tangled. Hotel in Tatuoa, where you lie between sheets or purge travelers' flu into familiar white porcelain through the night. Hearing the endless songs, 500 roosters calling and responding on erotic dreams, while 100 dogs surely yellow chant the bass. Then comes the quiet time when your own beloved spouse finally sleeps, breathing healing mountain air into Tatuoa's soft embrace, so cool next to your home. You listen to the silence before Lesotho's summer dawn. No urban sounds at all disturb the clear far bells and distant laughter that pulls you gently from your bed to go out and wash yourself in beloved Africa's morning greeting to you, uprooted and foreign man, so old, so self-contained and calm. You look across the river and lift your eyes to the gold line, just cracking the arching edge of mountains, and hear the slow fall of beloved goats' bells and herdsman's call flow down the mountain rocks to greet the morning water. My wild card is just going to be the last thing I wrote, and I'm not even sure I have it titled right yet, so we'll see how it goes. It's called, as it sits, It Rains in Florida, and it's kind of an ekphrastic piece from a 911 recording. It rains in Florida. I have been there, in mist and deluge, standing motionless or running, heart and breath tearing my chest. Winds can change, lifting buildings into skies, or so still each drop's a straight line to God, but every drop intact unto itself. There's also the unseen spaces between. Such small places, falling dry and empty, holding each droplet discreet and contained. 2 of billions, falling, motionless in their relationship to one another. Just stare, no questions, and without touching. They fall silent in the propriety of rain, never asking what the other's doing there, locked in fear of falling.